And hello everyone, it is Peter Sam, the Narrow Gauge Engine, making another writers ranking video because why on earth not? Today we'll be looking at two writers from the Brenner era of the show who made a few episodes here and there and are pretty infamous within the UK children media space. They are of course Mark Huckerby and Nick Ostler. A pretty weird duo to choose for the second ever episode of this series, so why did I choose them for this video? Well, they only had 8 episodes, and I kind of needed that amount after the Sharon Miller one, which was really long. Something far easier to sink my teeth into. Mark Huckerby, born in 1973, has worked on Peter Rabbit, Tree Fu Tom, a nostalgic masterpiece, may I say, and The Octonauts. His close friend Nick Ostler, born in 1975, has worked with him on all of those projects, and so when Mattel came a-knockin', the duo grabbed their pens and began scribbling away on 6 episodes for Series 18 and 2 more episodes for the following season. But how good are these episodes? Well, if you're expecting a bottom-heavy list like we had last time, you'd be in for a surprise. Just before we begin, I'd just like to explain and preface the way I do this series, because last time was kind of the pilot, it was kind of testing the waters, and so I feel like this time, if you just know a bit more about how this system operates, I feel like it would benefit everyone. After watching them and making notes whilst I watch, I rank these episodes into tiers and then add them to an actual list that I use and go off when I'm recording. There's no script, just my notes, I'm pure YOLOing it. Of course, my bias is gonna slip through the cracks here and there. I'm not perfect, and if that pisses you off, honestly, that's more than fair. Anyway, let's jump in and find out what is Huckerby and Ostler's worst episode.
Yeah, that is crapper. Wow.
I thought I was going to get lucky. I thought maybe we'd get an E-tier episode and we'd just skim through. But then I watched this episode, Samson Sent for Scrap, and oh my bloody fucking god. Samson's lack of intelligence and overconfidence is just what really seals the deal with this episode. There's a lot of other things that I just think don't really work, but the main thing that really put this in F tier, alongside things like Up and Away and Push Me Pull You, is the characterization of Samson. His lack of intelligence, his overconfidence, it's just too unlikable for me as a protagonist. It made it so difficult to watch. I don't even think that Samson would be foolish enough to think that a well-polished bike or a car with simply a flat tyre are scrap, and that's what really frustrates me. I'm not even sure I like his voice, and that's another thing. I don't like his voice either. He's not even like a nice voice to listen to, so I'm getting nothing from this protagonist. I also really don't like the lack of logic with the idea that Scruff is in need of repair and so Samson goes to do his job, but then Scruff appears like at the end of the episode trying to stop Samson. The Fat Controller could have let Scruff still do the work and just waited like an extra half an hour for him to, you know, be repaired, but that's not what happens. We have to have someone replace it because apparently it's such an important immediate job, and there's no possibility for workarounds or fucking just to let people know that there'll be a half an hour delay on this train, like signalman and shit. It makes no sense why this plot would even happen. And to top it all off, it's a 3 strikes formula episode, and not even in a good way. It's the most basic thing ever. After having watched every single Sharon Miller episode prior to this just feels like a really bad Sharon Miller episode. An unrootable protagonist. The deuteragonist in Harvey learns no lesson about his failure to stand up to Samson, and is just simply a plot device that is neglected and goes along with the insanity that this plot holds. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Sharon Miller turned around and went to Huckerby and Ostler and went, "Oi, say this script's yours." And this was the script, and just hands them like a £10 note. It's like prods them in the back with it. Do you want it? This episode should be sent for scrap, which is the best thing I can end off with. It's a terrible pun, I'm sorry.
Do I go left now, or do I go right? Which way is wrong now? Which way is right?
I think I gave Signals Crossed a lot of doubt before because I was trying to see, and there are positives with it, don't get me wrong, I think there's some great positives within Signals Crossed, but Toby's characterisation just collapses this episode to D tier. Whilst Toby is sweet and he is charming in his own way when he has this timid characterisation, in a plot like this, it just doesn't really work for me, because it takes so much of the episode for him to even believe in himself. and it just feels like such a slog up to that point. I will say, despite that characterization, his dynamic with Henrietta is pure comedy gold. It's proper adorable as well. And when we do get to the point where we watch Toby gain confidence and become self-assured, it just adds such a nice element of pride for me watching it, especially when everyone is just dunking on Toby about learning his signals all the time. A lot of the engines give him a lot of shit for it, and I just want to tell him to piss off and leave him alone. I do think the thing that this episode champions the best is giving Henrietta a face and a personality. Those things are the things that make this episode not F tier, and they really bolster it.
You see, he's a water engineer.
I'll be tending to some pipes this summer.
Considering this episode is in C tier, it's fitting for what I'm about to say. This episode, Marion and the Pipe, is mid. It's so mid. It's the most mid thing I think I've ever seen. It is neither in the realms of good or bad. It exists in this grey area that I can't really describe other than just the mid zone. I think Marion has a pure heart and she's such a pure character, but she's also massively obnoxious. So her character to start with is incredibly polarising for me. She's both enjoyable and unlikable all at the same time, and it just really creates this stuckness for me where I'm not really sure what I think. Like, she plays games with Bill and Ben about, oh, what's in my bucket? And I think those moments are fun, but other times in the episode she's like blocking Gordon's path with said bucket and tries to tell him a story. Like, Jesus Christ, it's such a polarising thing to watch. I do think the best moment of this episode is when Marion screams 4 as if she's playing golf and then knocks the boulder out of Gordon's path. I think that's a very good moment for her. And that final scene is quite nice, but overall, this episode's just like massively unengaging. Like, I got really nothing from it. It doesn't really do anything wrong, but I don't understand what it does right that's like really good and would make me want to put it anywhere above C.
Oh, there goes Mr. Asshole! There goes Mr. Dick!
A Cranky Christmas is again, it's fine. It's a nice episode. I like the contrast of like the Sharon Miller video where I'm really bigging up the C tiers in that. And then in this video I'm just like, yeah, they're fine, they exist, it's fine. Just shows I was really searching for scraps in that video. I like the mention of Thomas's sandbox. It feels very Chris Audrey sort of vibes I'm getting from that. And I think the idea of Cranky being fearful that he's broken a crate is a great concept for an episode. I think it shows he cares. I think it gives this new side to him that I often like to see. It's this more vulnerable side to this often more guarded character. I don't understand the idea that Thomas just arrives at the docks and he asks if the crate's there that he's looking for, and Cranky's like, no, I haven't seen that one. And then he just doesn't wait for the next ship to arrive to see if it's on there. Makes no sense to me. Maybe there's an explanation for it. I haven't seen it, if there is one. And I do think that Cranky and Thomas dynamic, when Thomas discovers that Cranky was hiding the crate, I think that's kind of funny. It's a nice moment. I enjoyed that bit. Overall, the two plots that are going on here, they feel a bit disjointed. There's a Thomas side of the narrative, there's a Cranky side. They don't feel too connected to me. I feel like they could have done with a bit more. And really, Cranky's the side character in this one, despite being named after the episode. I do think that the one thing that could have boosted this up is just have the Fat Controller be more involved in the plot and be a more serious character, an actual controller figure, as opposed to just a dowdy big man that's sliding around on ice skates. Again, it's fine. I enjoy it a little bit, but it's not exactly blowing me away.
Excuse me? I wonder if someone could help me. Maybe? Please?
Once again, the top 4 is B and A tier, but this time it's a lot less criminal because we only had 8 episodes to rank and not 66. I'm still mad about that. It's ridiculous. Thomas and Hero's dynamic is always adorable. It always is. It's always charming. The like big brother little brother sort of bond they have. It's how it should be done. Although his question about like why is Hero called the Master of the Railway is odd, considering that we've spent many series with Hero. And Thomas should be far more knowledgeable on why that is, considering he's the one that found him as well and told him the story of his origin. And whilst his crash is a bit unrealistic for me, it does make sense that Thomas's fun side would get the better of him, and that would cause some shit. And I do like that overall they are referencing Hero of the Rails, they are acknowledging that it exists, which, to be fair, I wouldn't blame them if they didn't. You know, it's a Miller special, and Miller specials don't tend to be the greatest. But no, they're not ignoring it and they're not sidelining it. It's pure involvement with the pre-established lore, and for a show that doesn't really do that too much, I've got to give it props. And listen, this might be a hot take, people might disagree with me on this. Heroes Hideout, the new set for it, it's just so ass. It's lost its charm completely. It used to be this like grungy, sort of void of life area that looks sullen and wasteful, and it kind of gives me like the animated film of BFG vibes. Like, I don't know how to describe it, it just looks so sullen and sad, and it looks like no life could live there, right? And now in this episode it looks bright and vibrant and colourful and like a woodland, which I know it's supposed to look like a woodland, but it's also supposed to reflect what it means for the plot. And I feel like taking that away has ironically taken the life out of it, which is weird because the point was it had no life. Anyway, it's beautiful, but it's wrong. Thomas's steam signal that he uses, it's smart, even if I'm not sure that's how that works. I don't know, maybe? I don't know. It has a lot of good parts to it, and I think Thomas is characterised well, I think Hero's characterised well. If that hideout wasn't shit in terms of set, then I would have put it higher, but overall, perfectly enjoyable. Definitely not the worst I've ever seen.
Then he waddled away, waddle waddle, till the very next day.
Okay, so if you followed along and you've seen what the episodes are, then you'll know that 2 of the top 3 are episodes that I previously said are bad, or less than good, or I've previously said that they were not up to par. And one of these is in 3rd, and that is Duck and the Slip Coaches. I've come back round to this one. It's still not my favourite, but objectively speaking, I think it is solid. At the start of the episode, we see the Fat Controller literally shoving people into carriages. That's savage. Guy needs to chill. And I think overall, having Duck at Timoth's Sheds for an episode, it's like seeing what the Steam team could have been. And that's cool, even if there are no females in there anymore. I think the idea of like James taking credit for Duck's idea as a plot, it's an all-time low character moment for him, and it's awful. It's not James to the rescue low, but it's I'd say it's 2nd place, and it does make him incredibly unlikable, but it is a good concept. And also what's weird is no other engine calls out James for stealing Duck's idea. Like, not one engine backs up Duck, and not one engine in that shed likes him. It's very obvious. It is a hole within the plot as well. Like, I feel like Edward would have said something, or like Henry maybe, or Percy. And normally I am not a big fan of Duck, but in that scene I do feel quite bad for him. But I suppose he gets his own back when James, you know, he becomes his own hubris and acts like an actual idiot. And I think that makes Duck's sass all the better. Now, of course, I can't talk about this episode without mentioning the Slip Coaches. I like their livery. I think it's quite ornate, it's quite fancy. They do have personalities, but they don't really have names, and I feel like that's weird. They're just Slip 1, Slip 2, Slip 3, or as Duck calls them, Slippies, which, honestly, not a big fan of that. Does sound a bit odd. But I also think the chances of the Fat Controller just buying the exact Slip Coaches that Duck used to work with, I mean, like, what are the chances of that? That's so weird. Like, just the odds would dictate that he'd buy different ones. But I suppose it kind of has to work for the plot. Overall, the more times I watch this one, the more times I like it. It's growing on me, it really is. But I also think the plot hinges on a few plot holes that make it a bit more dodgy. It's why I'm not giving it A tier just yet. Oh yeah, also the vintage flashbacks are cool, like, duh. Once again, we've reached the top 2, and it's between 2 season 18 episodes, one of which previously I have praised, and one of which previously I said was kinda eh. And it's that kind of eh episode that's ended up in 2nd. The 2nd best Mark Huckerby and Nick Ostler episode, in my opinion, is Long Lost Friend. I think the cat and mouse aspect of the story is a bit cliche and boring, but I think it could have been far worse, and I don't think it's horribly written. And when they pass each other on that fucking like bridge set thing, they would have seen each other. You're not telling me that they didn't see each other, that's absolute bullshit. Percy, at the very least, would have seen Gator. And of course, I addressed this sort of ideal before with The Biggest Present of All in the Sharon Miller episode, but I'm not really a big fan of when they bring characters from specials back who have left, quote unquote, at the end of that special, with this one being Tell of the Brave. It takes away from the scene in the special when that character leaves. It takes away the impact for me, because you know you're going to see him again, and that's why I prefer, like, Journey Beyond Soda I think did it best, where they had a cast of characters, but you don't really ever see them again, to my knowledge. Of course, Lexi, Merlin, all them fuckers could have come to Sodor and just worked in the scrapyard there. I have no idea. I haven't seen proper. I think my favourite aspect of the episode is the rock salt B-plot that's going on, where Gator has to find out where this rock salt is going because the delivery sheet gets ruined by rain. It's something very real, very believable that could happen, and I think it's just such a good way to create a realism aspect that really comes through. And then that coupled with Percy and Gator being so excited to see each other, and they're just that wholesome energy that's really throughout, and the loose Christmas theming that shows you what time of the year it's set but doesn't take over the plot. I think those things as a combination really bolster this episode for me. And I'm very shocked that last time I put this sort of near the middle of the list, because I think it's actually probably top 10 worthy, if not like 11th, 12th place. Yeah, I was wrong about Long Lost Friend. I'll be the first to say it. It's good.
And the Oscar goes to...
And of course, if you've been following along, you'll know that number 1 is of course Toad's Adventure. Oliver is a knob. We'll start off with that. Oliver's an arsehole, and I hate him in this episode, he's awful, but I love the combination of a James and Toad dynamic, with James being a bit prickish, and Toad being very fair and a bit worrisome. Having someone so cocky with someone so humble, it's a brilliant dynamic. I think the runaway on the hill is such a badass sequence. I think it's one of the best sequences of that season. It cements Toad as a great character in the CGI, in my opinion. Like how Busy Going Backwards did that with the model series version of Toad. And I do think it's nice to see James be pleasant towards someone. And he even defends Toad at the end of the episode from Oliver's ego. And then that ending just really highlights how valued Toad feels in that moment when all the engines gather around to hear his story. It's adorable. I think this episode has everything. I think it has strong characters, I think it has a great runaway and climax, I think it has some wholesome energy, there's clear character growth with James, and we even have a reference to the Series 3 episode Escape. Like, there's nothing this episode doesn't have. There's even like Dowager Hat hijinks and Top of my Hat hijinks. Although I will say that like seeing Thomas Pool coaches that like aren't Annie and Clarabelle and just random express coaches, that's freakish. I hate that. Never again. But in my opinion, this is the best Mark Huckerby and Nick Ostler episode, and long shall it stay that way. I think it's fair to say that had we seen more from Huckerby and Ostler, we would have gotten some great gems, as they really seemed to find their stride in Series 19. Yes, there were only 2 episodes, but they were 2 episodes that were on the higher end of my list. It was a damn good 2 episodes, and I have no clue why they stopped writing for Thomas after that. They seemed like a good fit, and they added a fair amount. Well, apart from Samson Sent for Scrap, that took away brain cells, but I would love to know why either they left themselves or they were gotten rid of. Were their episodes the biggest or the grandest? No, but that's why I liked them. They were excellent in their creation of slower paced, down-to-earth episodes which they took their time with, and they didn't have to be daring or tense. They almost felt like a return to the classics in a way. I could easily see Toad's Adventure or Duck and the Slip Coaches, for example, fitting snugly into Series 3 or 5. I think Thomas, as a show at that point, was overall better with these two on the writing team, and it's such a shame that they only co-wrote 8 episodes together. I would have loved to see how they did with more episodes under their belt, and whether they could have kept up that quality. But all good things must come to an end, as they say, just like this video has. So please leave me a like and subscribe for more if you enjoyed, and until the next video, I've been Peter Sam and you've been you, and I'm off to find these two, bring them back into the writing room, and oh, fuck, the show ended. Hey, there's always the 2026 reboot.